The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here. Right here, and when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for
you. This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening and viewing friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful best day ever. And for those of you who are tuning into the classroom for the first time, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening and viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, as you know, for those of you who've been watching or listening or following, whatever it is that you prefer to call it, the classroom, you know that I've said this many times, that in 2013, around that time frame, or late 2012, I started watching some documentaries. I went from allopathic, and that's all I believed in, take that pill, and all of a sudden, I found myself diving into a natural, holistic, and I'm going, this makes sense to me. One of the first documentaries that I watched was Forks Over Knives. We've had many of the doctors from Forks Over Knives in the classroom. And when we've had the opportunity, one of the doctors that was highlighted that has not been in the classroom yet is Dr. Matthew Lederman. He's a classically trained allopathic doctor whose journey has led him to, like many of us, into a more natural, holistic alternative. And I hate to call it alternative because I really do believe this is the first line of defense, is to listen to what your body is asking you to give it. And then once you do it, the body gives you what you need. But little by little, I've been discovering this disconnection. And it's interesting that would be the topic that Dr. Matthew Lederman would like to discuss today, which is the disconnection that we're experiencing right now is leading to a health crisis. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Matthew Lederman is here to do just that. I'm looking for him and I don't see him yet. There he is. Welcome to the classroom, Matthew. I'm so glad that you're here.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Yes, you're probably one of the last doctors and your wife that I've not been able to interview. So this is an honor to interview you today. Now, I know that Forks Over Knives, I don't know if that was your first time being documented and put into the front line, but share a little bit about your background and what led you as a classically trained MD, internal medicine, to becoming more of a whole food plant-based or nutritional science guru.
Yes, so I was in conventional medicine, learning internal medicine trained, and I found that I just wasn't enjoying it from the perspective I got into this to help people heal. And we were giving people medications, but they weren't really healing, right? So we were great at treating acute issues, acute medical problems, broken bones, infections, things like that. But when someone had diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer, heart disease, we weren't helping them very much. And they weren't addressing the issues. And I didn't know all of the issues at the time, but through reading and experience and sort of experimenting on myself after reading some of these books, made the changes. And for example, I remember reading a book, and I remember halfway through, I said, I think this book's going to tell me to be vegan. And I was following the Atkins diet at the time, because
Oh,
that's what I thought was healthy. I didn't know
yeah.
really much about diet, just like most other people in medical training. And I said, okay, well, they're promising all of these things that sound too good to be true. And I'm the type of guy that likes to try it, prove it wrong, so I can go back to my old way of
Yeah.
living, but I won't just put my head in the sand. So I tried eating rice and beans for a week. And I thought, that's okay, that's vegan. I can do that. And I actually wound up feeling great. I couldn't believe it. I had all sorts of like irritable bowel, stomach, reflux, fatigue type of things that just felt better. I couldn't believe it, eating rice and beans. At the time, I ate rice and beans because I thought you had to mix rice and beans to get enough protein. But after a week, I still didn't want to be vegan. So I said, well, even though I feel great, I'm going to die from protein deficiency. So I looked to prove that that was the problem. So I go back to my old eating habits, and I read about the protein. I said, wow, not only can you get enough, you can get enough in this great package. It doesn't cause all these other problems with your health. I said, okay, well, maybe hopefully calcium will be an issue then, because I really didn't want to be plant-based at the time. And I looked again, researched that, and sure enough, you not only get enough calcium, you get it in the kind that you can absorb really easily, and you get more than enough. And I said, okay, well, I still don't want to be vegan yet, so let me prove something else. I said, well, you can't make this taste good. I can't eat rice and beans for a week or for the rest of my life. So I remember getting a cookbook, a vegan cookbook. I tried to make vegan French toast. It took me 5 hours to figure out how to find the ingredients that I never heard of and cook this way that I never cooked before, and it tasted fantastic. And I said, well, I ran out of excuses. So I said, I'm going to be plant-based until there's a reason why I can't be plant-based anymore. And I haven't found that reason. So I'm continuing to do it. I feel fantastic. And then I learned that we can help other people reverse disease. And I reached out to, doctors like Dr. McDougall and Dr.
Mhm.
Joel Furman.
Mhm.
And I spent time with them, and I saw amazing, amazing results within days to weeks. They were reversing diseases that were unheard of being reversed in the conventional system. So then I went out on, with Alona, my wife and partner, and we decided to open up our own concierge medical clinic, treating patients this way. And that's where, that's what you see in Forks Over Knives.
Yeah, it was great. I tell you, if I were to say which one documentary or movie has impacted my life the most, it would be Forks Over Knives. That was my I don't know, the canon that shot me out, because it all made sense. By then I was already beginning to dip my toe in natural, holistic, and eating a different way. And I was introduced to raw veganism by a person who had gone to at the time I had a radio show. They had gone to the station, and he was feeding this incredible food that I have never experienced before to people that had no idea what they were having, didn't even care. Their daily habit was to have, French fries and a fried, whatever animal they could fry up. That's all their diet consists of. And I'm thinking, come to my show and just feed me. Just give me your food. And at that time, he challenged me to go raw vegan for 1 month. And after 4 days, I accepted the challenge, obviously. After 4 days, I felt incredible. I felt so good, but the deal was I didn't feel bad. I didn't know I could feel better. And that completely changed my life. Just being able to research and learn the science behind it was life-changing for me. Since then, I've interviewed, Andrew Saul, gotten off all my medications for asthma, and that was a huge thing for me. I had been on medications since I was a little girl, and I believe that those medications would kill me today if I would still be on them. And so I'm grateful for the work that you're doing, the documentary Forks Over Knives. If for those of you who have not seen the documentary, please take the time to watch it. Since then, there have been other documentaries too that are just as good as Forks Over Knives, but that's my all-time favorite, my original. So thank you so much for that work. And so as you continue with your journey, that was a while ago. That was what, 2013, 2012, but I think the documentary came out in 11. Was it 2011?
Yeah, I think it was 2010 even. We did it in 2009. I think that's when we filmed it. So
So
we had
has,
no idea that it was going to be that
oh,
popular. We were
life
just we're
changing.
doing something. Yeah. So that
Yeah,
was pretty exciting.
I remember meeting Dr. Esselstyn for the first time. I felt like I had met a rock star. It's like but at the beginning you're just learning and you're absorbing so much. It's been an incredible journey. But there, even with the vegan raw, it just after 3 years it wasn't supporting me anymore. So what do you tell your patients? And we're going to be talking about disconnection, but part of this disconnection is not listening to your body. And I listened to my body, and after 3 years, the raw vegan just wasn't supporting me anymore. And that's when I met Dr. Joel Fuhrman. But let's talk about, can the body change, and how do you address some of these changes with your patients or people that you coach?
Yeah, the body can definitely change. That's what's amazing, right? If you're hitting your hand with a hammer 3 times a day, is there any question that if you stop hitting your hand is going to heal?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you do permanent damage, maybe it'll be a little bit more challenging. Maybe it'll take a little longer. Maybe it won't heal perfectly, but it's gonna heal. And that's what we're doing right now with how we live and how we show up in the world today, is hitting ourselves over and over again and causing poor health. Our body's natural state is a state of health and healing and connection. And we have to actively do something to take it out of that state. So when you remove that stimulus, that whatever that is that you're doing, it goes back to that state. That's where it wants to live.
And it's a great state. It's the best state to live in, right? We're talking about Florida versus California, or that state of grace, and that state where your body is just responding. So let's talk about, why do you think there's been a disconnect between the mind and the body, or the spirit and the body, where we're not even attuned to changes that need to be made? And by the way, for those of you who are watching, if you have a question for Dr. Lederman, please make sure you type in a Q, write your question down, and we'll address it before the end of the class today. So what would you say, to answer my question, what would you say is the process?
So just make sure I heard the question correctly. You're saying, why do people go out of a state of health and go into towards this state of
that disconnect? That disconnection, because I may see it in somebody else, whatever it is that I'm seeing, but I won't see it in me. And as soon as I know that the body is constantly whispering to us, and sometimes when we're not listening, it hits us with a 2x4. And so sometimes people wait till that 2x4 hits them in the forehead to go, what? I didn't know. But the reality is the body is always talking to us, but we have disconnected ourselves to our body, and we don't listen.
Right. So that's a good one. So we've been educated in ways that disconnect us from ourselves. And in many ways, right? We're told what to eat growing up. So that's the food we naturally eat. We're told what to speak. We don't choose what language we're speaking. That's our parents speak that to us, and then we speak it, right? So we are taught to be driven through external factors. In other words, how do you know you're a good kid? It's because your parents told you. How do you know you're a good student? It's because your teachers told you. How do you know you're a good worker? It's because your bosses and supervisors give you bonuses and tell you you're great. It's external, right? All of these things are from outside of us. And one of the first things we do in our book, Wellness to Wonderful, is connect people. Of the 9 pillars, the first one is connection to self. And most people are disconnected from self, and they don't even understand what we mean usually when we say to connect to yourself. Like, what does that mean? And to me, it's connecting to what's going on inside of you, what's in your heart. How are you feeling? What are you needing? Most people don't know how to identify feelings, let alone identify what they're needing, right? So I'm needing to feel. Needs I talk about are feelings, needs for safety and security and autonomy and health and love and freedom. So when you connect to that, you all of a sudden can align your actions and your behaviors to meet those needs. So instead of doing what you think is right, what you think you should, or what you've been brought up doing and are sort of on autopilot, you can start to check inside and say, hey, is this resonating with my values? Is this meeting my needs? Because when you don't meet your needs, you often feel anxious and depressed and sad and all sorts of feelings that are intended to let you know that you have needs that are being unmet. But many people are forced to pick. And this is, people that experience developmental trauma, right? They are forced to pick between doing what is expected of me from outside and meeting my own needs. In other words, I want to maintain relationship. I want to maintain attachment and connection. So I'm going to suppress my needs to stay in relationship with other people that are important for survival. And they can continue that on well past childhood, where you really are dependent on them for survival. And then they continue just living in that autopilot mode, where you look outside to do what is right versus checking inside. So we bring people back in and we check, how do you feel when you eat that food? Do you want to be eating that food, even though you were brought up eating that food? Do you want to be doing that job? Do you want to be interacting with people in that way? Do you want to be thinking and talking that way? All of that actually is not only important for your overall well-being, but it affects your physical health. And that's what's really fascinating now, is there's data showing how it affects your physical health.
So when I hear you speaking, I know your background. I know you're classically trained, and whole food, plant-based, and nutrition has been so essential in your teaching and helping others. But when I hear you speak about feelings and emotions and all that, is this new for you? Is this something that you came to as a form of helping yourself? Because that's, basically, I've had long relationship with many doctors that have come on the show where emotion is like nonsense. Let's focus on the body. Let's focus on the body. But little by little, people are realizing that emotions have a lot to do with our physical body and how it expresses itself. So how was it that you came about to this knowing?
Yeah. So the first chapter of our book, what we write about actually is diet's really important, but it's not all that matters. Mm. And that's so important. In fact, I learned that from my own physical issues, which is usually how I stumble across new things, as I find in my life. So for example, I went plant-based and learned how to do that and learn about that at a time where people were saying that diet doesn't matter, or diet, it's good to have, but it really doesn't reverse disease. And now it seems to be more mainstream, where what you eat actually affects physical health and disease. Well, I think we're a little bit ahead of the curve right now, again, like we were with diet, but now it's around connection. We talk about something called connection medicine. So we practice nutrition, lifestyle, and connection medicine. And connection affects your physical health, whereas a lot of people are not ready to say that. There's data clearly showing that. And we're just ahead of the curve again. So 10 years from now, people are going to be saying, of course, connection causes disease. Here it's very clear. But if you want to get in early, right, this is the time to do it, because it's so important. So I had problems, even though I was eating a perfectly clean diet, exercising the right amount, sleeping the number of hours I was supposed to sleep. I still had problems with chronic pain. And I had chronic back pain and sciatica. And it was not an issue around needing surgery, but through that, and it's probably a whole other talk with you to talk about chronic pain, but through that and how that works and how chronic pain works and how we're learning now, there's data now that we didn't have 5-10 years ago around how you treat chronic pain, for example. And that's where I got started in something called nonviolent communication. And that's where nonviolent communication supports connection. Because a lot of people think about connection. Oh, I got lots of friends. I go on dates. I'm great. It's not about being around people. It's around how you show up and connect to yourself in this with compassionate authenticity, and how you connect to other people with compassionate authenticity. And you can be authentic and still remain connected. And that actually is challenging, right? Because we want to be either we suppress ourselves to be polite and connected, or we're harsh and we share what's true and we don't care how it lands. And very often, particularly people who've experienced developmental trauma, which is every patient I've ever worked with, they are disconnected from their feelings and their bodies, right? That's a survival mechanism. They didn't know how to manage and support that pain. There was no one to help them with that or teach them how to do it. All of that is supported by nonviolent communication. So I went and said, hey, this stuff is not only changing my life, it healed my back pain. And again, it's more to this, but I'm just going to let you know, it healed my back pain, which I was shocked. And then it not only affected my marriage, it affected my relation with my children. I said, this is amazing. We got to
Yes.
add this in. This is really important. Diet doesn't do this. And I said, I'm going to be a certified trainer. I'm one of the first and only medical doctors that is certified trainer of nonviolent communication. It took me 4 or 5 years of training.
Wow.
And that's what is a big, big part of what we do. And we work it into our model.
That's amazing.
So that, yeah.
Yeah, keep going, keep going.
I was going to say, so connection, the way I talk about it, is essential. It's not a nice to have. It's essential if you want to fully reverse chronic disease. And that's how we talk about how do we define optimum health? Is living in a state of life is wonderful, right? Where you could walk around and people say, how you doing, Lily? And you say, life is pretty darn good. I have my ups and downs, but overall life is great. I know I'm going to get through them. And it's not just a positive attitude. It's where life really feels wonderful. And what we did was we put together 9 pillars, and we said, these 9 pillars are sort of checkpoints or along this sort of flow of life. And if you are tending to those 9 pillars and there's flow and they're not blocked, right? Life is going to be pretty wonderful. And that's really the essence of it.
Well, let's talk about, so what he's talking about, the 9 pillars, is the book Wellness to Wonderful. Do you have it? So you could be my Vanna White. You can show the book. You can get it in Amazon. Where else can they get your book? Because you can
get it Barnes Noble, Amazon.
Get it on your website. WeHeal.health. Can you get it there?
WeHeal.health. They can get linked to where to purchase it. Yeah.
Right. So I don't have the book with me because I didn't get a copy of the book somehow, but I will have Dr. Matthew back, and perhaps maybe we can do a giveaway or whatever, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. So let's talk about these 9 pillars from the book Wellness to Wonderful. They're very, I think that there's a lot that we can talk about this, but I really do want to look at that connection. So if you can quickly go through the pillars and what they mean to you.
Right. So the 9 pillars of health are pillars that, again, we use as sort of this benchmark. It's an infinity sign, and they're all along. And you start with the self, and that's connecting to yourself, regulating the nervous system, sort of getting out of survival mode, that you can then connect to what you're feeling and needing. Most people are living in survival mode. When you're in that state, you don't have the ability to do that. So you not only have to get out of survival mode, but then you have to learn the language and the awareness of feelings and needs. And again, that's supported through nonviolent communication. Once you've done that, you can now resource your body. And that's the next 4 pillars, which are sleep, nutrition, activity, and play. And when you optimize that sort of your internal world, the factors that you can affect independently, sleep, nutrition, activity, and play, then you're able to connect to the other 4 pillars that are remaining, the last 4, which is your family and friends, your work, and that's your meaning and purpose in life. And the next pillar is spirituality and something greater and bigger than the self. And then the last pillar is the natural world, connecting to all of the life on this planet. So when you are connected to yourself, your nervous system goes from survival and threat mode into safety connection mode. And then you resource your body with enough sleep, nutrition, activity, and play. Then you're able to connect to your external world, your family, friends, your work, spirituality, and your natural world. And when you do that, life becomes wonderful. And it's not about getting all those pillars in order and then you get to this state and everything's great. It's like having 9 beautiful children that you tend to on a regular basis, and there's ups and downs, and you just know about them and you can tend to them and look in on them. And when one needs more attention, you focus on that one. If a kid's falling down the steps and another kid is needing help with their homework, you help the kid falling down the steps, and then you go over to the homework, right? And so it's about knowing about your 9 pillars, and it's not about getting them to a certain state. It's not like, if I get all my kids to a certain state, everything's going to be great. No, it's a lifelong journey. Everybody knows that. And there's not one that's more important than the other, right? All 9 kids are equally important, and you just put your energy where it's needed most at the moment. And that changes minute by minute. That's the way we think of the 9 pillars.
I love it. I love the 9 pillars that you share. When I think of the 9 pillars, however, and you talk about the getting out of that fight or flight and the lion is chasing me mode, over the last 3 years, there's been a lot of fear imposed onto people. if you don't do this, this is going to happen. Once again, we're being told what to think, what to feel, what to fear. And there isn't a lot of fact checking, and the fact checkers aren't really fact checkers. They're just really promoting their agenda. So with all the fear in the world, how do you get people or yourself to focus outside of fear? Because I truly believe that if people were to just be true to themselves and see that fear is driving their lives, or that fear is driving our lives, that their life will change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we look at feelings as basically messengers of whether needs are being met or not met. So a lot of people focus on the feelings, and feelings are important so that you can connect to what's going on. But we don't want to treat the feeling as the problem.
Correct.
Right. So if you're afraid, it's letting you know that maybe you have a need for safety or security or acceptance, or, there's all sorts of needs that could be triggering fear. So you want to be with the fear. You don't want to try and make the fear go away, which is how most people go through life. Is they get a feeling. If it's unpleasant, they try to get away from it, or make it go away, or try and control people around them to make that feeling go away. That doesn't work. If we focus on connection, first connecting to ourselves, which is connecting to our fear, identifying the need, right? So what if my need is safety, and then making a request of yourself or other people to try and meet that need for safety in a way that's not currently happening. And through that process, there's an endless number of strategies that can support that. We always have choice. A lot of people don't think they have choice. They may not always like their choices, but they have choice, right? So for example, instead of trying to control the people around you, you have an option to move. Now, I'm not saying you have to move, but I'm just saying to put that as one of your choices so that you start to feel more expansive, to start to feel more freedom. Because as soon as you think you don't have choice, you go into fight or flight, right? That's a threat state, which affects your physiology and affects your ability to connect to other people, which is going to affect your ability to work situations out. Because a lot of times you don't have to move, but if you focus on connection, you can get to a place where people care about your needs and you care about theirs. Because remember, most people have been educated in a way that either makes them insensitive to other people's needs or makes them preoccupied with getting their own needs met, regardless of the impact on other people. That's an education. That is not the state they wish to be in. So if we know that, how we show up can impact them and make this outcome usually much better.
From your mouth to God's ears, I really do believe that most people don't understand how they're coming across. And we have a blind eye to ourselves. And so how do you get someone who is always wanting to be right, in their ego, in control, looking good, whatever it is that is promoting them to stay close to the brand? Like, for example, Dr. Michael Clapper, for example, he was just in the classroom on last week. And was it last week or anyway, he has discovered that his health, there was an area of his health that had not thrived, which was his omega-3s, EPA, DHA. And it was really difficult for him to take the supplements that he needed to take in order to balance that. And so he could have just said, I'm not going to talk about this because I don't want people to think this about me. I could just continue with the brand. And I had to acknowledge him, and I wanted to, tell him how courageous he is, because most people would have continued on with the image as opposed to really look at themselves. So that's just an example that I'm giving you. It takes a very strong person or someone that has gone through maybe a coaching, or maybe they can be a self-cleaning oven and figure it out themselves. But how do you get someone to step out of that package mentality or that image mentality and just be true to themselves and just be who they are?
That's really important, because shame grows when you keep things hidden, right? It can't grow when you express and connect and share. And when you're in that state of suppressing, you put yourself into that high alert threat state, which is pro-inflammatory. A lot of people don't realize that when you're in a survival mode or high threat, high alert,
Mhm.
It's pro-inflammatory, similar chemical and physical and neurological response as you would have from eating an unhealthy diet. It's the same chemicals. Physical threat and psychological or emotional threat all affects the same. It's identical as far as the neurochemical impact in your body. So that's really important. So now it's not only makes you feel better, which is interesting, right? If you connect your feelings, doing things that it promotes or supports health feels pleasant. So when you share and are courageous like that, you stop that suppression and it releases, right? And it releases the body from going that pro-inflammatory state, but it also allows you to experience a state of acceptance and a state of connection, and love. And that helps you feel safe when you can share what's going on inside of you and it's accepted and embraced. That's what we want to do for people, right? It's not about being on the path. And that's what we teach people. I'm not on the path. All 9 pillars they're always, up and down. And sometimes it's a mess. It's about knowing what they are, knowing what the path looks like, being able to identify when you're off the path, and then knowing how to get back on. It's not about staying on the path and never falling off. That's really important. How we define success is knowing what the path looks like, identifying when you're off, and knowing how to get back on. So for example, I'll give you my daughter. We had some issues where the pillars really went out of balance for her. And we had some issues in Florida with the schools, and we kept her home, and we wound up affecting her connection and her friends. She had some social challenges, right, where we said it was best to do homeschool, but we didn't get that same community like we really wish we had. She was eating vegan, but we weren't forcing her to eat, whole foods, plant-based, right? So she was able to choose, and she chose foods that had more oil. Sometimes they had more processed as far as like some of the burgers that have the isolated protein. So she wound up getting diagnosed with inflammatory bowel. And we said, whoa, oh my God. And she said the same thing, which actually was interesting because we always wanted her to eat more vegetables, but she was resistant. And I could have tried to force her. I could have tried to threaten her. But that's not sustainable long-term.
No.
So instead, we said, hey, you got this issue that's going to reverse, or you could take this medication. Here are the side effects. She said, whoa, I don't want those side effects. Let's go. And we actually brought her and she was able to do some healing and change her diet around. And we got her connected socially, and she's feeling so much better. So within a matter of a month, we were able to turn something around extremely quickly because we just sort of jumped on the 9 pillars and optimized them all. And she was on board. So now we were all connected, which actually probably in hindsight was the only way to really get her. And now she's the one that's following the diet without us forcing anything. So to me, that ability to share not only makes your life better, but it empowers other people, because we all have stuff that we're holding alone. And that's when we suffer. It's not when we have these unpleasant feelings. It's when we hold them alone and hide them and shame ourselves about them.
That's true. That's true. I've had critics in my family that say, why do you share this? Why do you share that? Why not? If it happened to me and I lived through it, how can I not throw a life preserver to someone that it might be happening to them? There's purpose for the pain that we go through, the discomforts that we go through. But if we just keep it to ourselves, which is fine if people want to do that, but for me, it's just against my nature. Why not share it so someone doesn't have to go through it the way that I went through it? Maybe they can improve upon it. And every time somebody improves upon it, the story of your daughter, when I was doing the research, how wonderful that you gave your daughter that option, as opposed to telling her, this is what you need to do. This is the medication you're going to take. Most parents today, and this is very sad, and I think it's something that's creating the disconnection.
Yes.
Is that they allow the kids to learn their information through connecting through the internet. Little kids, 1 year old, 2 years old, I'm seeing them on their own iPads. It took me years to get my own iPad. Now these kids are like connecting to things that don't really matter. And so now this is happening now. I can't imagine when these little children grow up to be adults, how disconnected they're going to be, because they're
Right.
constantly being bombarded with noise and sounds and ding, 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 and visuals that are
Right.
sending other messages. What do you say to that, and parents that are allowing their kids to be constantly connected to the internet?
Right. So I think we go back to needs, right? Like, to me, that's the core. Everybody does things to meet needs. Your kids, adult, whoever you are. So to tell them to stop doing something is basically saying your needs don't matter. We're just going to meet my needs here. So the first thing I focus on is connecting around the needs, which with the kid, might be, hey, I'm really worried about the health impact on your brain. I'm worried about your ability to connect with other people socially when you're on the iPad as much as you are. But I'm imagining you're meeting needs on the iPad too. So this is where I empathize with them. Hey, so you're probably having a lot of fun, meeting your need for play, connecting with other people, probably some competence when you're completing these games that you were at and successful at them, right? It's probably giving you a little bit of relief, right? Everybody all day at school has been telling you what to do, and now you get to control your own world and sort of get some relief. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of choice, right? You get to play, do what you want. So there's a lot of needs that you're meeting from this iPad. So if I just take it away, I'm basically saying all those needs don't matter, versus I say, hey, I want to try and meet those needs in a way that I know that you care about them too. And I also know that you care about your needs for health and well-being. So would you be interested in learning more about this, regardless of whether you're on the iPad or not? Can we take some time to explore this together so that you can hear? And before we even say yes or no to that, can you just tell me what you're hearing my concerns are? So now I'm getting my need for empathy met, which is, hey, I'm asking my child, you just tell me back what you're hearing my concerns are. Now, they're probably so used to being told what to do that they're preparing to defend. If they trust that you're just trying to connect, they're going to have no problem telling you what they hear, because they trust that you care about their needs, and we're not going to find a solution that only meets the parents' needs at the expense of the children's. So you have to build some trust to be able to do this. That's through practice. But you see how my focus is connection? I remove the idea of I need to get them off the iPad. That is going to disconnect us.
I love that.
I stay connected to my concerns, which is their health and well-being, but I don't stay attached to the strategy of getting them off the iPad.
And in the process, you're teaching them other ways to connect, other ways to fill that void, correct?
Exactly. And
That's
where we struggle with as a population. I think we label, right? So are you a Trump supporter, or are you not? Are you a pro-vax or anti-vax? As soon as this kid is difficult, this kid is fun. As soon as you label them, it's disconnecting. Mm-hmm. So whether you're a Trump supporter or not, if you want more peace and connection on this planet, you will remove the idea that there's such a thing as a Trump supporter or not. There's people that have needs, and that they believe Trump will or will not contribute to them, or more than not will contribute, right? So to me, the same thing with vaccine or abortion, pick any conflict, any topic. And if you want to connect, you got to remove the label and thinking that there's such a thing as a pro this and an anti this, because you won't connect. So I hear all these people that say, we just need to get along. We need to be more accepting. But then the next thing I hear them talk about is a label of somebody. And right there, I say, that's where we start. And then the other piece is we have to be able to hear everybody's ugly thoughts, right? So if we censor people, no matter what it is, or we judge people, no matter what they're doing, we are creating an environment where they are taught to keep things to themselves, which increases suffering. It increases inflammation. It increases all sorts of awfulness that they then try to navigate in a way that, had we made a space for them to share it, we could have healed it in a way that's likely more contributory to the entire community. Right. So, and again, this is probably a whole other conversation.
It is. I'm writing it down.
Around social change. Yeah. But I think the way we're going about social change is focused on strategy instead of the needs that I'm talking about.
I like that. It's so funny because when you're talking about those things, I really do believe that this division and this labeling goes all the way back to probably prehistoric times before the Bible. In the Bible, it talks about the Jews and the Gentiles and the, and the women and the men. And so there's always that label, like disconnection. If you're not this, and division, if you're not this, you're that. And that, I believe, is by design. I believe
Right.
that we're being controlled by the 99%, by the 1%, and we are the 99%. And if they divide the 99%, then we can control the 2% or the 5% or the 1%, because we can start dividing ourselves. And one of the focuses that we have is to find commonality. I believe that everybody has something. I mean, in our conversation, I've discovered so many different wonderful ways that we have in common. But most people are looking at what we don't have in common. Let's focus on what we don't have in common, and let's that be the way that we relate to one another. And I love what you're saying, and I love the fact that that you're saying it in a non-violent way. And I'm very interested about that. So share a little bit about this non-violent communication.
So nonviolent communication, we talk about STD, say what you say, what you think, and what you do. And it teaches you, it's a re-education process. I think, we're born to be completely nonviolent, right? And then we get educated in a way that makes violence possible, right? Because violence is only possible if you can disconnect and dehumanize somebody. Otherwise, you could never hurt them, right? So we say what we say, how we think, and what we do disconnects us in a way that makes violence possible. So what nonviolent communication does is it teaches you how to say, think, and do things in a way that brings you closer together to someone else, so that I can share what's alive in me and you experience it as a gift, right? That's pretty impressive. And then as a result of that quality of connection between us, compassionate giving and receiving flows freely, so that there's this need for interdependence. A need for interdependence is where I can't meet my needs at the expense of yours. I can't meet all of my needs because I have a need to care about other people. And I have a need for fairness. And I have a need for, peace and love and all these needs. So what I do is I spent a lot of time doing this because I was educated similarly. And even to this day, it's like when you learn a new language, the old language is still there. Mm-hmm. You catch it and you translate it, right? So, and there's days where I'm under-resourced and it's harder. So I know that I'm more likely, when I choose to work late at night and eat unhealthy foods and don't exercise, I'm going to be under-resourced. I'm more likely to speak in a way that's disconnecting. I'm more likely to think in a way that's disconnecting. So to me, it's about how I show up. And if my focus is always on connection, and through that connection, all sorts of wonderful strategies naturally emerge afterwards. But I don't come with an agenda where I'm trying to get you to do my strategy. I come with a desire to connect to you and care about you and to help you care about me. And when we're in that place of caring, the possibilities are endless.
That's beautiful. I love it. I love it. I would love to learn more about that. Before we continue, I want to move to some of the things that we're doing as well, whether it's in the classroom or whether it's through workshops and such. But I want you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. This information is so powerful. I want you guys to continue to take your health back, to take your life back, and realize how many times we've given it away, given our power away. So go to whenyouneedafriend.com. Please become a subscriber while you're there if you haven't done so already. As you know, censorship is incredibly high. I just had my 18th video this year removed. It was from 2019 on YouTube. So I want you to stay connected, talking about connection. I want you to stay connected with the classroom. Go to whenyouneedafriend.com. You'll get weekly blogs that tell you who's going to be in the classroom. Like if you are subscribed, you already know Dr. Matthew Lederman's email or contact information or webpage. So just become a subscriber. And while you're there, please like and follow me on all social media. There are so many different things that we're doing here to create a new life for all of us, not just for me, not just for you, all of us who is ready to learn. Anyone who is a student or a teacher, we all are ready to learn and ready to teach. So check out my supporters, my sponsors, support them the way that they're supporting the classroom. Also go to my Shop Now bag. These are Lilly approved products from head to toe, including pain management with microcurrent technology, which, as you know, my registered service mark is you can take a pill, you can take responsibility. It is all about taking ownership of our life. So check different ways that you can do that. Another thing that you could do is that you can go to the pop-ups that come up at whenyouneedafriend.com. We're going to be doing on August 1st, we start the Super Gut with Dr. William Davis, and we're going to be learning about our microbiome and repairing that microbiome for 6 weeks. We're going to be doing that together. So check it out and see if you would like to join us for that. And then in November 3rd and 4th, we have Dr. Bradley Nelson, who talks about tapping into your subconscious mind so that you can heal those past wounds, not just from you, but from past generations that have been handed to you. So check out that workshop. That's a live workshop in Cape Canaveral, Florida. Hope you can join us. And those are different ways that you can support the classroom. And one last way that you can support the classroom is you can become an enrolled student. And whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month, or just a one-time donation, whatever you can do, whether it's your time, your talent, your treasure, everything is so necessary, especially as things increase in price. So I want to thank you for your donations. And I also want to thank Dr. Matthew Lederman for being in the classroom today. You can find him at weheal.health. Matthew, can you share anything that you would like to share that you could be doing, especially that people can do to heal for themselves?
Yes. So we have, you can work with us. You can work with my life partner and work partner, Dr. Lillian Polday, some health coaching that supports people individually. There's classes. I'm doing a workshop in September at the International Plant-Based Nutrition Healthcare Conference, where we're going to be bringing connection together with your physical health. And then we're going to show people how to start getting immersed in nonviolent communication. So it's really, really important that people understand what we mean by connection and then apply it to their lives. That is the number one way to make life more wonderful right now.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. We have, before I continue, because I have so many questions, we only have 5 minutes left. There's a question. It says a recent prostate procedure did not go as well as the reviews and hype of this procedure. I wonder what it is. So I'd love for you to share. So I am in constant pain. I believe that must be neurological. And after a year, it is tolerable. So I think that's the end of that. So
yeah, so chronic pain, when you've had pain, a broken bone heals within 6 weeks, 8 weeks, like in the absence of some continuous issue, which usually conventional medical systems are good at figuring out because they love to do interventions. So if they can't find any issues because they've done all the tests and everything they can, they say, oh, here's some medicine for your pain, live it the rest of your life. That's when we like to see you, right? Because that's when we can help and the conventional system can't. So if people have had pain ongoing like that, there's more that we can do usually. So I highly recommend reaching out.
What about with the prostate? Is there a connection? Because I do a workshop. It's called I Am the Solution workshop. The I Am is the God in me, and the solution is an acronym that I created to live a healthy life, to live a life that has meaning and purpose. And so with that, I always share this chart. I don't know if I have it with me, that shows how emotions get stored in certain places in the body, and that kind of grows and manifests into dis-ease. Depending on what the symptom is, I can trace it back to maybe the trauma. So with prostate, is there a trauma connected or with people that have prostate issues?
I can't make a generalization like that. Sometimes there's something happening that's physically, structurally in the prostate. And sometimes that's a neural pathway pain. All pain comes from the brain, but sometimes there's a structural issue and sometimes there's not. And there's others, sort of central issues going on, right? So to me, I wouldn't make a generalization, but it can affect, I think what you're talking about would be more along the lines of the neural pathway pain.
Very good. Very good. So we have 2 minutes left and I wish we could talk longer and maybe we could have you back again. I'd love for you to to come back. But if somebody were to just tune in right now, maybe it popped up into their Facebook or YouTube page, or they're just joining us on Telegram or Twitter, or the website, what would you say is the main and most important aspect of what we discussed today?
The most important aspect is understanding that connection with yourself and with other people affects your physical health, affects you at the cellular level. It affects your disease outcome, everything from diabetes to your microbiome to, colorectal cancer risk to longevity. And so it's not just a nice to have. It's something that you got to jump into, and it's not getting enough attention, but I believe it will over the next 10 years or so, similar to how plant-based diets have really grown in popularity.
I tell you what, it's a secret right now. I don't know why it's a secret. I think everybody should be, sharing it from the mountaintop. Whenever I coach somebody and I say, this is from, the past trauma, or this is from whatever, after discussing and listening, the pain is like a reflection of the pain that they need to deal with. The pain in the body is the pain that they need to deal with in their life, in their past. And they'll say, you're saying that this is all in my head? No, I'm not saying this is in your head. This is in your body, and it needs to come out.
Exactly.
And so I'm sure that the music's going to start soon. Any quick technique that will help people get grounded to listen to their body?
So anything that involves the breath and some movement and touch, I will do something where we'll just breathe in. You can hug yourself as you breathe in, and then you can breathe out. And just this sort of soothing touch with movement and breath work is one of the best ways to stimulate a sense of safety in a body that's otherwise mobilized.
Very good. Very good.
We'll do something with our daughter where we trace our finger, and as we go up, we'll breathe in, and as we go down, we'll breathe out, and we'll go through each finger. She loves that, but it's all sorts of little techniques. Yeah,
that's a great one. I just spent the whole weekend with our five of our grandchildren, and I wish I would have had that technique, especially with my 2.5-year-old. I'm going to do that one next time. Thank you so much. Dr. Matthew Lederman can be found at weheal.health. Check it out and support him for being on to the classroom today. And I look forward to seeing you again. So thank you so much, Matthew. I appreciate it.
That'd be great. I look forward to it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Matthew Lederman wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever.
Ever.
There you go. Hold on.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
Thank you so much for watching today. Join us tomorrow. We'll have Dr. Jennifer Grameth come on and talk about the body as well, the power of the body and the mind. We'll see you tomorrow.